Bueno, mi gente, it's Abiertos. We're back here with you guys again. But you know what? We got a little bit off track with this one because when the guest decided to send me a message, I put it out there that I wanted to interview different people and do something different. He jumped at the opportunity, and once we knew who he was and what he's all about, we definitely had to jump. Unfortunately, my two cohorts are a little bit stuck in the storm tonight. As you guys know, we pre-record this. This will be airing later on, but hopefully they can make it in before we get things going. And I have a question for you guys. What would you do if you got the opportunity to meet an actual spy? But mi gente linda, I'm very excited about this one. You guys have no idea how much I've wanted to do an interview like this since I was a kid. He is an author, former intelligence officer, mentor, speaker, media talent. He is a radio host with NBC, if I'm correct. And more importantly, he is right now ranked number 9 on the global gurus list for being an expert in body language. So before I take any more of your time, let's bring on Mr. Gavin Stone. Where is he? There he is. Look at that sexy.
Oh, what can I say? I can't compete with you, sir.
Well, if that's what it is, then my mother wouldn't love me as much. So, Gavin, thank you. Before anything else, thank you for being here. It's extremely exciting for all of us. My two cohorts are not excited about snow right now, but they were very excited to meet you, and hopefully they can make it in sooner than later.
I hope so. I'll hang around for as long as I possibly can, give them the opportunity if it's possible.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's get right into it. I don't want to waste too much of your time, but I have a bunch of questions. And one of the questions they were all asking me is, how does your family deal with knowing who you are, what you've done, and having the knowledge that you have this gifted mental power, for lack of better words?
So for a long time, they actually didn't know what I did. They knew I worked for the government, or they knew I was doing some work for the government, and they knew I traveled around and did a lot of jobs, but they didn't know the ins and outs and the specifics. And as for the superpower kind of thing, I mean, I still go around now to see my parents and pop round on a weekend. And I could tell them that I'm booked to fly to the moon next week, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's nice. Do you want some more spuds with your?" Yeah, and it would be totally a waste of time conversation. All the books I've written, and I don't think they've. My dad. I even wrote one with really large print the once, hoping you might read it. No, I kind of audio books. The lot. I thought maybe one day they might give me some recognition, but no, that doesn't seem to be happening. So I'm pretty lucky there, to be honest. I can do what I want. It's been that way since I've been about 13.
Well, there you go. There you go. Good for you. That's amazing. But what got you into all of this? Well, what brought the desire and the need to become, apart from being an intellectual, but somebody so involved?
Well, it started purely by accident. And it was when a friend of mine knocked my door one day and he said, "Gavin, look, you're a really resourceful guy, probably the most resourceful guy I know. Can you help me find somebody?" I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So we set out. I found the guy he was after in pretty much no time at all. That was it, job done, a favor for a friend as far as I was concerned. And then early part of the following month, he came round with this big envelope full of cash and he's like, "Here you go." And I looked at this envelope and I'm like, what's this? And he said, "You know that guy we found?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, that's your half for finding him. We were doing something called process serving." And I looked at this envelope and I was like, "Ooh, got any more of them guys you want finding?" And and that was what kind of got me into the sticky world of process serving, which is where it all started. And I turned out to be pretty good at that. So the people I was working for, they said, "Look, there's other things and other areas you can go into. So I started doing missing people and people tracing and different lines of inquiries. And it just it started off as private investigations that then led to fraud investigations and then government work and small government contracts, and eventually just worked my way up until I was rubbing shoulders with the right people and utilizing what I learned to actually work in the world of intelligence, and then that was when it went to intelligence gathering and the real good stuff.
Well, you've definitely worked it well to be number 9 in the world. Yes. Now, I heard that you weren't even aware of this. You weren't even aware of all of this happening to you.
That's right. Yeah, I so the first time it ever happened, I even got on the radar. I started off not last year, the year before, at number 28, and I didn't even know until I had a message saying, we've seen what you've done, we've read your books, we've seen your work, and congratulations, you're in the top 30. And I was like, wow, okay, that was cool. So I just carried on doing what I was doing, and again, didn't think much more of it. And then it was about a year later, there was a message on LinkedIn of the gentleman who was, I think, number 2 in the world at the time. It was a friend of mine anyway, Greg Hartley, and he kind of sent me a message saying, "Hey, Gavin, congratulations!" Like, congratulations for what? Have you not seen the results on Global Gurus? I said, no. He said, I'll go and have a look. So that was it. And that was when I found out I was number 9. I was like, woohoo, I'm getting good at this.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And to have a friend that's willing to reach out, I mean, at that level, that's powerful. That's very powerful.
There's some great guys in that community, to be fair, and especially like the main 4, Chase Hughes, Greg Hartley, there's Scott Rouse, and Mark, and the 4 of them, they do a YouTube channel called The Behavior Panel, and they really are great guys. They really know their stuff. So I'm glad to call them my friends, to be honest with you. Well worth checking out.
Definitely, I'm actually writing it down right now. On that note, I'm going to ask you about something. You can completely plead your fifth, as they say in the States. However, I was watching something that you posted a while ago. Amber Heard.
Oh, yeah, the court case, yeah.
So you did an entire analysis of her moments there.
Mm-hmm.
How comfortable were you afterwards when everything came out to light? How did you feel about that?
I'm okay. I basically I do what I do. I say what I see. I put it out there, and whether I'm wrong or whether I'm right, that's my interpretation of it. And I mean, luckily for me, Amber Heard hasn't come kind of knocking on my door and giving me any grief, and neither has Johnny Depp. So I guess it didn't have that much of an impact. But yeah, I'm not too bothered. I'm not out to please or offend anybody. I get the likes of Eric Hunley and 1 or 2 other people that get in touch with me frequently and say, "Hey, I've got some video analysis. Can you come and check it out and give me your thoughts and your opinions?"
Oh, that's cool.
I don't mind.
Really cool. Okay, that's good to know. I'm gonna have to write that down.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do it if it was Hillary Clinton. I mean, that I might have to give some serious thought before I say anything about the certain politicians I might want to avoid. But other than that,
I don't blame you, honestly. Yeah, I agree with you totally on that. Being part of the British Ministry of Intelligence, where is your favorite place that you visited during your time with that?
Ooh, good question. I've been all manner of places. Do you know what? I'm gonna have to come back to that later on in the show, because I've been to so many wonderful places that it's hard to pick a really, really good one. And as crazy as it sounds, I've been to countries in the world where they're really considered hostile or low intensity conflict zones and that kind of thing. And I've been to some of the most beautiful countries as well, the most friendly countries, and yet you would think it would be the ones that the friendly, beautiful countries that would have the greatest memories, but actually, it's usually the other way around. It's usually the more hostile ones that that have all the fun going on in them. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, it's true. You look at some of these so-called third world countries.
mhm.
Yes, there's hostility, there's anything and everything going on, but they bring up so much more.
Yeah,
There's more nature, more love, more caring within the people.
definitely.
Now, I love the mug, by the way. That is
Oh, thank you.
awesome. Your books, what inspired you and clicked to have to start writing?
Right. So this was definitely something that when I first got into writing, it was partially therapeutic, and it was part of it was to put my story out, what I'd been through, what I'd done, and I went down that road of making almost an autobiographical type story. And I remember when I'd finished it that I thought this is just going to cause too many political problems and other problems, and there was a lot of incriminating things that were in there that I just thought I cannot put this out in the public domain, So I thought, well, I'll water it down, I'll dilute it, and I'll change a few names and whatever else. And I did that, and at the end, it was actually really boring. I thought, this is so bad, I don't even want to read my own work, So I was trying to find a happy medium, and it was a friend of mine from MI6. He said, look, why don't you just write the whole thing as fiction? He says, and that way you can make up a story, you can put your experiences in it, you can put some of the things you've done in it, you can write everything from experience, but it's not really you or, kind of any actual assignment you've done. And, and that way you've still got the authenticity, but wrapped in a good story. And I thought, you know what, he's right. So I did that. And I put The Unforgiven Spy out there. I've written it very differently to how a normal spy fiction book goes. So all the way through it, you've got this kind of, it goes from the story, and then the main character will do something, and then it'll say tradecraft, and it'll tell you like a little spy lesson of why something's done in a particular way, and how it's done and how it's not done and why, and then it'll go back to the story. So if you're a spy-fi kind of addict, and you know all this stuff, you can just skip past all of that and just stick to the story. If you're new to the genre and you've never read it before, you've got those little bits in there for you to teach you as you read. Or you can just read it as a field manual and take all the tricks of the trade if you want.
Now, while I was doing my research with you, a name came up that's also another author. He was interviewing, or you were interviewing, I believe,
Mhm.
Mr. Eric P. Bishop.
Eric, yeah. I was with him in Trafalgar Square in London not so long back.
Okay,
Yeah,
that,
great guy.
that's actually very cool. What's your favorite book that Eric has written?
That Eric has written. He's just done another one, hasn't he? His latest one, which I would have loved to give him a plug, and it's at the back there. But I think it's called Babylon Will Rise.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be the one that I'd want to put out in front of the world for Eric, because that's his newest. That's his current baby.
Okay. Yeah, he's very passionate about his writing.
Yeah.
Very passionate. I really caught that during the interview, and I'm definitely going to have to pick up a couple of his books, because from what I caught on and what I was seeing, it's very, very him.
Mm, yeah. He does a good job of definitely of portraying his character in that.
Now, what would you say is a big difference for me as a reader, for me as a new person into this genre,
Hmm.
that would make me say, okay, this is something that is true, that is the depiction of real life, or turn around and say this was a ghostwriter, this was somebody just giving notes
Mm. I
from their
would,
life.
yeah, I would say that's pretty easy. If you're reading something and it feels familiar, like you've seen it on movies or that kind of thing, then it's not true. If you're reading something and go, hey, you know what? I never thought about that. Or, yeah, that must be really horrible to have that feeling at the end of this, or something that you've never experienced before because of the fact that it's not portrayed in movies or that kind of thing, or other books have glossed over it. then that's when all of a sudden you'll say, okay, now there's some levels of realism in this that I can relate to. Because the truth of the matter is, what happens on the screen and what happens in most books by people who've never lived it is very, very different to what people have been through it and who have experienced it, what they feel. And there are some, as much fun as it is, there are some dark moments. So when you're alone with your thoughts and those ghosts come back, that's when all of a sudden you have a different perspective on what goes on in the world. So yeah, it's those are the little bits you're looking for.
Okay. Now, how do you fight your dark moments?
It used to be vodka or tequila, and if I was really lucky, then both. But I actually stopped. I stopped drinking about 3 years ago. I was worried if I kept it up that the world would run out. So I thought I was doing a really good job. My family, on both sides are from originally from Ireland. So when they see posters like "Drink Canada Dry," they look at that as a challenge. So what we're doing, we've got a long line of alcoholics in the family, and most of them have died very, very young, and kind of some of them not quite young enough. And I thought, you know what, I don't want to carry on down that route of being one of the family members that are getting buried before their kids, kind of thing. So yeah, I didn't want to before the kids had grown up. Sorry, I should have finish that sentence. My mind had moved on. But yeah, yeah. So that was it. I stopped drinking, and I also stopped smoking about 12, 13 years ago as well, when my daughter was born.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Trying to live a little bit healthier.
It's hard some days. I mean, temptation is always around, but good for you.
Well, I'm battling at the minute because I've got this thing where I thought, well, if God wanted me to be really slim, then he wouldn't have invented cheesecake.
I am so going to be using that. I'm telling you now.
I actually bought my brother. My brother's bigger than me, and I brought him a T-shirt once which said "Fat people are harder to kidnap," and he absolutely loved it. He really, he wore it for ages, and it's died an untimely death now. It's just been through the wash that many times.
I'm definitely going to have to order a couple of those for my co-host and myself. With all of this you've done, though, you do have other fields. You don't just stick with the books. You don't just do the spy thing. And we'll get into the spy thing a little bit afterwards, but you've written a lot. And there's one thing that caught my eye. I'm trying to read my notes here.
Mm-hmm.
You're also into sales.
Well, yeah, I used to do a little bit of help in the family business. So between jobs, when I was kind of, when there were gaps between contracts and that kind of thing, I would help out. We had a family furniture store, and I would do the sales with that, and other areas as well that I'd. I don't know. I guess I just utilized what I'd learned and kind of adapted it for sales purposes, and then also went on to teach and train in that kind of thing as well from time to time.
So, what would be, as a salesman, what would be something you could teach me to improve my sales, my targets, my goals? Just a little snip. I don't want, because I know this is something private and we don't want to take too much away from it, but just a little bit.
I'll give you the best tip that you can ever have. What is it? Is this for anything, or is there a product specifically you sell that you would like to kind of?
Well, see, the thing is, well, now that we're on it, because we have the radio station, we're always looking to sell airtime, sell commercials. So I said, you know what? When I saw that you were into that, I said, you know what? Maybe there's something there that he can spark a light onto us.
Got you. Yeah. So most people do this the wrong way around, and what they do is they approach it with, "I have something for you. I have an airtime for you, or I want to sell commercials to you, or whatever the case may be." And when you go to anybody with a sales mentality, then 9 times out of 10, the person on the receiving end, the minute they know what's going on, they're like, "Oh, he's trying to sell me something," and they get their guard up, they get panicked, and and they get. What you want to be doing is going to the people's businesses face to face, make an appointment if you need to, and just say, hey, I'm in the area. I want to have a look at your business. I want to get a feel for your business. I want to know how, what your dreams are to make it grow, what your dreams are to make it bigger, what you do to please your customers, and then start getting into the dreams and ambitions of this person. Win them over emotionally to the point where you then turn around and say, hey, do you know what? I want to help you. Let's get a radio ad going. Let's get a campaign going to help you realize your dreams. Nobody is going to say to you, no, please don't make my dreams a reality. Nobody's going to say to you, no, I don't want to make more money. So you've got, you've got to sell them the dream. And you can't sell them the dream by putting an advert out in a newspaper or on the internet and hoping that you've got to get out to the people, do the cold calling or make an appointment to pop and see them, find out what their dream is, and then sell their own dream back to them.
You see me, gente? It's simple. Simple, simple, simple. Coming right from a guru. If you guys can't take this and learn, and I'm talking to my team, if you guys can't take this and learn, we're in trouble. There's a paddle that you're both missing on both sides. I really appreciate that information, by the way. Do your kids know what you do or what you did?
My daughter, it took me a little bit of time, and then I don't think she believed me. So I like there was subtle ways where, again, she knew I worked for the government, and she was, for a while, she was like, I think Daddy has something to do with the army, but I'm not sure what it is, and bits and pieces like that. And then the one day I sat her down, I put some movie on for like Spy Kids or Mr. and Mrs. Smith or something like that. And I said, what do you think of this? What spies do then? She goes, oh, yeah, it's really, really cool. I said, well, that's what Daddy used to do. And she's like, nah, I don't believe you. Like, nah, you're not that cool.
Surprising how kids take things sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. And your spouse, I heard that during an interview that you were doing, that she's caught you're doing the mental thing to her.
So yeah, I'm actually a practitioner of like hypnosis, mind control, and NLP and that kind of thing. And one of the things I do when I'm using NLP, it's a tactic called setting anchors, and you can do it with anybody at any time. You just have to take the time to be able to have a plan on how you're going to do it. And what I did with my wife, I did this thing where it's called setting anchors for negativity and positivity. So anytime there was something really, really positive happening, or there was a funny moment in a film or whatever, I'd touch her left elbow and I'd say, oh, it's really funny, isn't it? And, and kind of, be really supportive to her. Anytime something was really great, really beautiful, really positive in any way, I'd touch her on the left elbow. And what happens is she starts to get that association of being touched on the left elbow with something positive. And then on the flip side, I then do it with something negative. If there's a sad part in a movie or whatever, I'd touch her on the right elbow. I say, oh, that's really sad, isn't it? And again, it'd be something that I'd build up that anchor over time where being touched on the right elbow, she'd associate with something negative. So, of course, if I turn around to her on a Friday afternoon and I want to go shooting on Saturday afternoon, I'd just touch her on the left elbow where she associates it with something positive and say, hey, honey, do you mind if I go shooting tomorrow? And of course, that association, that being touched on the left elbow with something positive, is kind of like, yeah, sure, carry on. And then it works the other way as well, where if she says, oh, I want to go to my mother's for Christmas, I touch her on the negative elbow and say, are you sure that's a good idea? Because everybody gets drunk, your family has a row, it never works out too well. And she associates going to her mother's with that negative touch on the other elbow. And she's like, yeah, I suppose it's a bad idea. So, it took a little bit of time to set those anchors and kind of work on that with her. But eventually, I made the mistake of thinking that she doesn't watch anything I do, and I confessed on a podcast or a YouTube channel, and she watched it while I was at work. I come back, she's like folding her arms, tapping, rolling pin in her hand. I said, "You're not baking this time of night, are you?" So yeah, it was not a great little discussion. And after that day at work, I remember.
That is hilarious. That's brilliant. I love it. Oh my goodness. I know some things we can't speak about,
Hmm.
but I'm going to push a couple of buttons and see if
No
we can get
problem
any.
at all.
Have you, because I know you did security as well
Hmm.
for higher end people,
Hmm.
who has been one of the sweetest persons you've met during all of this?
Oh, okay. Oh, there's one that I really, really would like to say, and the problem is he's an A-list celebrity, and he's very, very, very strict with who he has as security, and at the same time, he's got this kind of rule where if you ever tell anybody you've worked for him, you'll never work for him again, as well as a few others within the industry, and it's mainly because of the fact that you would become a vulnerability. You know, if you're driving his family around, you know where his kids go to school, you know certain things about him, his routines and that kind of thing. Which is so when he says, you know, if you tell anybody you work for me, you'll never work for me again. It's not like a nasty threat or anything like that. It's just something that he doesn't want
For
that
protection.
vulnerability. Yeah, exactly. So and but you know. Having said that, I've painted the guy out to be awful, and he's actually really not. He's one of the most wonderful gentlemen in the world. He's been in a lot of films and movies, and I'm tempted to give hints, but I've got to be very careful, as you can imagine. But yeah, I took him around one or two different places to cover for somebody while they were away, and really, really wonderful gentleman. He went out for a meal. He took so much time to speak to all the people in the restaurant and you know who wanted to talk to him. It wasn't a case of like, oh, here I am, look at me, I'm special. You know, he just took the time out, answered the questions and everything else. And I remember at the end of the night, I'd just finished. I'd called my wife to say I was on the way home, and she said, "Oh, did you get a selfie with him?" I said, "I'm there to stop people doing that. You know, not to make his life worse by getting one for myself." So, but yeah, I really want to tell you his name, but I'm afraid I can't.
No, that's fine. That's
So
fine. No, I respect that. I respect that. And it's nice that in your industry, you're able to find somebody like that.
yeah, there are a few really nice people, and again, there are also some absolute nightmares. And I generally avoid celebrity work mainly because of the fact that everywhere you go, you pretty much know you're going to get mobbed. You know, there's going to be crazed fans and people all over the place who, you know, they'll either get drunk and they want to fight, or they get drunk and they want to party, or want sex, or whatever the case may be. And of course, you know, it makes life a bit of a nightmare. But you do get the odd celebrities where they're even worse than the fans, and they're getting drunk and drugged and all sorts of things, and you know want to smash up a hotel lobby or whatever the case may be. You know, whatever's crazy fad is this week. So of course, celebrity work I try and turn down as much as I possibly can. And again, I won't say any names of who the bad ones are either, just purely out of the fact that you
No,
know,
no, definitely. We don't want to
yeah,
do that. We don't want
no.
to get into that issue.
Some of them
um,
tell themselves in their own songs, to be fair. So.
this is true. Very true. Now, while you were working there with the intelligence agency,
Mhm,
actually, let me rephrase that. I have a real question that I've been dying to ask somebody in your position,
mhm.
and again, only if you can answer. Your thoughts on people like Osama bin Laden, on Saddam Hussein, um, on Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela, people like that have that empowerment, that entitlement that they believe they own.
Mm. I've had a recent conversation with a friend of mine from CIA, and we were talking about the fact that we have both, and a lot of people have, you know, met and worked with along the years. We have had to sit in a room with terrorists, with people who hate Americans, people who hate British, people who want, you know, to kill anybody who doesn't convert to their cause or whatever the case may be. They've got their beliefs, they've got their ideology, and I have had to sit in a room and have tea with these people and try my best to understand them and not necessarily agree with them. That doesn't mean say I agree with what they do or who they are or what they want to achieve, but at least try and understand what motivates them. Because I've had to try and also get these people to then tell me secrets in order to prevent attacks on our country and on your country and on countries all around the world where they're trying to make a massive impact. And it is pretty damn hard. And this doesn't necessarily just mean terrorists. This could be criminals. This could be all manner of nasty people who've done all manner of dreadful things. And yes, it can be hard because there are people who I have sat opposite who literally disgust me in what they do and what they want. And I've had to sit there drinking mint tea with them and have a conversation with them like I'm their best friend. Not because I want to, but because I know if I don't do it, a bunch of innocent people somewhere could die. And that in itself is really, really hard. So when it comes to the likes of Osama bin Laden or anybody else with this kind of ideology that they've got, I have a level of understanding why and what they want to achieve. I don't agree with it, but I do have I know the reasons behind what they're doing and why they're doing it, and you have to remember for them, it's just the other side of the coin. We're the enemy, and they're just trying to strike back. The difference is they're doing it in a way where they want total annihilation, total control, and to completely take over everything everywhere. Whereas we don't have the same ideals. And when it comes to freedoms, that's a totally different thing altogether.
Very well put. Very well put. No, it's.
I tried to be as diplomatic as I could with that.
No, definitely, you did an amazing job with it. Just, I understand where you're coming from with this and why you're speaking the way you are, because not everybody is willing to hold back themselves. Being next to, across from, in the same room as somebody that you, as you stated, are disgusted by. It's not easy.
No.
Like, to hold back all of that energy and the possibility of finishing them right there, that takes a lot of strength. I commend you on that. For those of you that are just starting to tune in during the show, I want you guys to make sure you give him a follow, get to know Mr. Gavin Stone, best-selling book writer. He's an amazing human being, but more importantly, he's got a book that has caught my attention. I've already ordered it. How to Tell If Someone Is Lying.
There we go. That's it right there.
Yes, sir. If I ever meet you in person, you're signing it for me.
No problem at all. I can make that happen.
Now, why? Why would you let that?
I think it's just, out of all the areas that I can talk about and do talk about freely, especially publicly, that seems to be the one that kind of grabbed the most attention of the most people. There seem to be a lot of people like, I need to, they have this desire to know, is my husband lying to me? Is my wife lying to me? Are my kids lying to me? Is my boss lying to me? And of course, sometimes I think they occasionally need to look inside themselves, and instead of saying, well, do you need to know whether this person's lying to you? Ask yourself why. Why do you need to know? Does it really make that much of a difference? And they need to be introspective. But when you tell people that, they're like, no, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear the method on knowing how to know if I'm being lied to or not. So a lot of people have this need for closure. Whether it's an ex-partner or something, whatever the case may be, someone that they need to know whether they're being lied to. So I thought, why not? Let's put some of the knowledge in a book. Let's get it out there and, give people the ability to be able to have a conversation with somebody. And if they start seeing deception, they've got the means of spotting it and then being able to choose for themselves whether they want to do something about it or not.
Interesting. Very interesting. How has the public taken that book?
It seems to have gone pretty well from what I can gather. Yeah, I've had a good response. I haven't had any complaints yet. I'm worried that one day, you know, some kind of crazed lunatic is going to be waiting outside my front door and saying, "My wife left me because she read your book and found out I was cheating with my secretary," or something, something along those lines. But in which case, I'll say, "Dude, you know that's your problem. You shouldn't have been having sex with your secretary." You know, so
It's always the damn secretary.
exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah. So far, touch wood. Do I have any wood close by? Yeah, there we go. Touch wood. It hasn't happened yet. So hopefully that will remain the case with a bit of luck.
There you go. And you've got a trilogy as well, right?
So yeah, I've got parts 1 and 2 of the trilogy are out. Which no, part 1 is The Unforgiven Spy, and everything in that is based on first-hand experience. I've kept the continuity 100%. So if I say there's a website in there, it's in there. You know, it's a real website, or it was at the time of printing. If I say there's a code to a door in a military base, that's the code to the door in the military base, or at the time was when I wrote the book. The continuity is 100%. So much so that when I wrote book 2, I put in the direct phone number and extension of the chief of station of the CIA embassy in Prague, and I had to redact it because when I checked, it was still a valid working number. So I was like, oh yeah, that needs to be redacted. I can't leave that in there. So yeah, very very nearly had a little faux pas. It's a good job I went back because I double checked absolutely everything. But yeah, all the content in book 1 is written from first-hand experience, and the continuity is 100%. Book 2, whereas book 1 is based on first-hand events and everything in it, I have personally done. You know, so whatever it is, you know, that's something I've done. Book 2, it's based on experience, but there's things in there that I haven't necessarily done. A lot of it I have, some of it I haven't, some of it I've done training for, or whatever the case may be. But you know, it's still. I'll leave that to the reader to decide which bits are and aren't true. And then book 3 has been the first draft has been written, and that's on the way. So book 1 and 2 is out, and the audio books as well, in paperback, ebook, or audio book. And book 3 is on the way shortly.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
But I heard there might be a book 4.
Yeah, so I was going to stop at book 3. That was the original plan. It was going to be a trilogy, and that was it. And it just seems like when I got to the ending, right in the ending of the trilogy, I thought, you know what? There's more that I can keep bringing here, and the characters are good, and the stories are good. There's depth there, and if the demand's there, then I'm going to keep writing for it because they do. The sales keep increasing all the time. The demand seems to be there for it. People want to know what it's actually like in the world of a spy. So I thought, why not? Let's keep the people happy. If that's what they want, then let's give it to them.
Now, do you guys have a kid? This is just me being a kid, and I know what the answer is. Do you guys actually have gadgets like a Go Go Gadget phone and stuff like that?
Sometimes. So there's two sides here. There is a place in the UK up in where is it? What's the name of it again? We call it the London office. Well, Milton Keynes. There's a place up in Milton Keynes where there's a government centre which is specifically for taking everyday gadgets and literally remaking them with hidden facilities or hidden kind of compartments or whatever the case may be. I don't want to say exactly where it is because I don't know whether it's public knowledge or not. But it's, you can't miss it anyway. It's great government building. And that is, in certain instances, it's more about bringing things in and out of a country undetected. So hypothetically, if you need to bring like let's say a chip, or a USB memory stick or something like that in or out of the country, they'd want to put it within something like maybe a camera that has a cavity, so it looks part of the workings of the camera or something like that, so you can get it in and out the country without it being detected. So yes, those do exist. And certain other things do exist. I mean, sometimes we're given. I remember having a swipe card. Well, not a swipe card, like a magnetic card. Yeah, well, like you have on hotel doors where you press it and the door unlocks, and it would just unlock any lock that had that magnetic kind of RFID thing. Yeah, so and that was brilliant. Unfortunately, they made me give it back, which was I was really upset about that because it was kind of handy. You know, and there are other little bits and pieces, but the truth of the matter is, the majority of the time, you don't really have much when it comes to things like gadgets. What happens is if you can imagine, if I land in a foreign country, especially a hostile country, even more so if it's one that's got a reasonable amount of security, and I have dynamite in my watch and X-ray glasses and kind of, you know, and a winch in my bag and, you know, and all these different, you know, X-ray phones and self-destruct buttons on my shoes. And they'd be like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Then, so I wouldn't make it out of the airport. You know, there's no way that it would happen. So what you have to do something which the abbreviation is BIC, because governments and militaries and that kind of thing love their abbreviations, and that stands for porting country.
They do.
Yeah. So yeah, porting country is basically how we deal with everything. So instead of like having gadgets issued to us, they will teach us how to make gadgets for ourselves. You know, so they'll say, right, what you want to do, you want to get into country, you want to go to Radio Shack and buy this, buy that, you know, or you want to go to, you know, the Walmart equivalent and buy these chemicals to make explosives, or these chemicals to make smoke bombs, or whatever the case may be. So they just give you the knowledge and the training to be able to go out and whatever you need, go and get it, or use whatever you've got around you, or whatever you've got available to you at the time. So that can be anything from lockpicks to, you know, kind of electronic stuff.
Oh, very cool. Now, would you go back?
If I had my life over again, yes, I'd do it again. I'd probably do it one or two things a little bit differently. I have one or two scars that I could do without do with not having. So yeah, I've learned a lesson there. But yeah, I'd definitely do it all again. I wouldn't go back to it now because of, you know, my children, my family life, and the fact that I'm just getting a bit old and flabby now, and it's time to kind of you know, just relax and enjoy while I can. And there's only so many times that you can risk your life before it all goes wrong. And while the going was good and I'd still got all my limbs, I decided that, you know, it was a good time to call it a day.
Oh, definitely. I don't blame you. I commend you guys. I don't know if like there's a grouping or a calling or what you call it, all of you, but that's a line of work I don't want to do.
Oh, I've no doubt. And so many people do like the idea of it, but in all reality, if they were to actually do it, a lot of the time they'd probably be pretty disappointed. You know, it's one of those careers where the majority of what you do is actually very boring. You can be sitting in a car or something, you know, the back of a van doing surveillance, you know, for hours and hours and hours. And, you know, you're just waiting for one person to leave a front door just so you can radio to the next person down the line and say, yes, the target's left, you know, heading north, or whatever the case may be. So it can be extremely boring. And I've heard it put that it's 99% boredom, 1% action. But when that 1% action happens, it is full throttle, and it is fun.
You just answered a million little boys' question.
Yeah, I'll bet. Because the thing is, in reality, you know, the majority of the time, you know, there are no explosions, there are no gunfights, there are no racing through the city and whatever else. Because if all of that is going on, then you've got the job very, very wrong. You know, you're meant to sneak in, get what you need, and sneak out undetected. You know, if things are exploding, you're not doing a very good job. So.
So definitely not what the movies make us think.
No, not at all. You know, and like I said, don't get me wrong, there are occasions when these kind of things happen, things go really, really bad. You know, there are times when, you know, exfiltrations have to be, you know, emergency exfiltrations have to be done, and you do have to create diversions, distractions, and that kind of thing, and that can be whatever you want it to be, you know, whether it's some kind of explosion or otherwise. And again, without giving too much in the way of tactics away, the idea is to make them look one way while you're going the other.
Really?
Mm.
Did you ever come close to being caught?
Yeah, loads of times. too many times. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the kind of training that we would, you know, this is where I talk about the psychological training that intelligence officers have. And, you know, there's more to it than shooting and driving. We spend a lot of time learning about human behavior and about psychology and about, you know, how people are going to react in certain circumstances. And we believe it or not, we do a hell of a lot of role play. And what you'll have scenarios that we are taught about where you might be looking around, say, a particular building. I know, let's say you're in Iran and you're looking around a facility that you think might be, you know, used for some kind of, you know, nuclear testing or something, or and you're snooping around. Somebody comes up to you and says, "What are you doing?" You can't mumble and fumble and sit there going, well, I was just you need to do something straight away. So if you're out and about, you know, no matter where you are, and somebody asks you what you're doing, you not only do you need to react straight away, but you also need something that is going to put them on the back foot. They're coming to you with an objective, and their objective is to find out what you're doing. So what you've got to do is give them another objective. So hypothetically, you're looking around the building, you're not really meant to be there. You need to get out of there a bit fast. If somebody spotted you, they come over and they're walking towards you and they say, "Hey, you know, what are you doing?" And you go, "There was a girl. She's about 7 years old. She's gone missing. She's in a pink coat. She's my daughter. Look, you go that way. I'll go this way, please. If you find her, tell the police." And you send them off and you go one way and they go the other. Now they're not looking for me. They think they know what I was looking for, and they've gone off looking for a girl in a pink coat. And that's allowed me to be able to get out of there, because what's happened is that they've answered questions in their minds like, "Oh, I get what he's doing here now. He's looking for this little girl. He's looking for his daughter." They've closed that loop, but what you've done is you've now given them that second objective, and they're now in a different state because you've used authority and one or two other things to send them off to do something else. And even if 10 minutes later they're scratching their head thinking, "I think that guy was lying to me," doesn't really matter because you've gone by then.
True
So.
enough. When you started releasing your books, what did your peers, your colleagues, think about all of that?
Yeah, I've had good support with that, to be fair. Yeah. I've had one or two people. I had a friend of mine from MI6 write sections of it. There's another friend. This is in this book, How to Tell If Someone Is Lying. I had a friend who was former naval intelligence. She wrote a section. So I've had a few friends from the intelligence community that have contributed to that one. And then it's the same with the fiction books. You know, the few different friends in the IC that I've contacted and said, "Hey, you know, I'm about to put this out. Do you want to have a look at it before it goes in the public domain and give me some feedback?" And again, I've had absolutely brilliant support. So the one thing about the intelligence community is a lot of the guys, they kind of get each other because they know what it's like, and so that they are pretty supportive, to be honest with you. So I'm grateful for that. With book one, I filled it full of that much tradecraft. I hoped it would get banned and go straight to number one, because I thought, you know, if it gets banned, then everybody will want to buy a copy. So it didn't work out too well. So I tried again with book two. If it doesn't get banned soon, then I'm really going full force with it in book three. There's going to be secret passages in there and all sorts of things that people don't know about.
There you go. That's awesome. That's amazing. But circling back to the question I asked you earlier on,
Mm-hmm.
what has been your favorite place to be at, to visit, that's given you something that was something of a memory that's made you feel great?
I think, to be honest with you, if I had to go back now, I'm torn between Israel and Marrakesh for two completely different reasons. Israel was really, really, really beautiful. I mean, you know, it's just it's even got a feeling to it that you can't even describe. And while I was there, I got baptized in the river Jordan where Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist, and that was
Wow.
something to me that I thought, well, that's an awesome thing to kind of. I'm not super religious, I believe in God, but I'm not like kind of highly practicing Bible bashing and trying to ram it down in everybody's throat. Everybody's got their own beliefs. I don't try to force mine on anybody. It's my thing and that's it. But while I was there, I did go to the birthplace of Jesus. I did go to Nazareth. I did go to the place where he was crucified, and so I did all these things, and even floating on the Dead Sea, which is surreal. It's a bit like it's the weirdest feeling in the world. It's almost like lying on a wet mattress, but without the soggy feeling. It's you just float on the Dead Sea. Yeah, it's almost hard to stand up. You are floating on the surface of the water, and I lay there for about half an hour reading a book. It was absolutely amazing. You pretty much cannot get yourself under the water. So that was cool. So yeah, Israel was cool. And then Marrakesh again. Just we've got the CIA and the British government, and I've got a lot of the Allied nations have got good relations with Morocco. And while I was in Marrakesh, I enjoyed my time there. There was some good people. It was a good way, good feeling. And there's a lot of friendly people, and there is a divide, and you do see poverty in places if you look for it that is just kind of heartbreaking. But you still see the fact that everybody, no matter what, they're still trying. They're still doing their best. And yeah, there are one or two shady characters in certain parts where around by the Medina and other areas where there are criminal elements, but there are a lot there is a big police presence there as well. So, they do try their best to regulate it.
After seeing all that you've seen in your life, doesn't it bother you when somebody treats a server at a coffee shop like garbage?
When so a coffee shop with what? Sorry, say that last bit again.
So, with everything you've seen and everything you've experienced in your life, when you go to a coffee shop, you're ordering your whatever you drink, a tea, coffee, and some random person decides to treat the server like garbage because the coffee or whatever was not to their standard.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
That it's hard to explain. Again, I was having exactly the same conversation about like kind of priorities with what we call first world problems, and you can be in some really poor parts of the world or some really nasty parts of the world where people are having to make life and death decisions, like real life and death decisions, and things can get pretty heavy pretty fast. And again, I don't want to drag this down a dark hole, but this is the kind of industry where you can see a lot of death. You can see a lot of things that one decision can mean you lose friends or people you've worked with or colleagues or whatever else. So decisions are not made lightly. Everything you do, has heavy consequences. And when you come back from working in these environments and, and these, major life-changing decisions have been made. Some people have had to leave their family behind to run to a foreign country because they've chosen to sell secrets or to do something, and so we're talking real major problems. And when you bring somebody to a country that they've never been to start a life that they've never thought about living up until the point that you approached them and said, hey, we want to know secrets about what these particular people are doing, where they've had to leave their family behind, they've had to leave everything they know behind, and have a whole scary new beginning that is not just beyond terrifying, but really emotionally draining. And yeah, like you say, you're in the coffee shop and somebody's moaning because their latte doesn't have enough of the right milk, or they don't have oat milk or something. You just think, dude, please, move out the way now. Take your coffee, because and it is difficult to stop yourself from losing your temper. because some people, especially in this day and age now, the younger generation, they just don't realize how easy it is and how easy they've got it.
I completely agree with you. So before I let you go, I've got one more question, but I do want to invite you back because both my co-hosts, one of them is not happy. I was trying not to read the message that I was sent, but I had to just for their own safety because I don't want them texting while they're driving. But they're asking me to bring you back. They're asking me to
Yeah, by all means.
schedule something. But I also host another podcast. It's called La Silla Caliente, which means the hot seat.
Oh, okay.
I would love to put you on the hot seat and ask you some. They're a bit more personal,
Yeah, that's fine.
but not so much career-wise.
No problem at all.
It'd be a different side of things. But before we go, we have a tradition here. We give everybody an opportunity to give a piece of advice, say something nice, or something that's good, a bit of motivation, because we try to make sure that everybody's motivated and have something to think about, live with, and move forward on. So I'm going to take myself off the camera and I'm going to leave you all by yourself.
Oh, scary. Okay, all right then. Well, what I will say to everybody is we seem to be living in a world where everybody seems to be pretty easily offended. And I would like to let everybody know that it's your choice whether you want to be offended or not. It is subjective. It's down to you. I choose to not be offended by whatever people call me. I choose to live my life the way I want to live it, and I choose to be happy. And whatever somebody else is doing or saying or calling me, whether it's names or whatever the case may be, it's my decision as to how I react to it. I can't control what they do. I can't control what they say, but I can control how I react to it. And I'm certainly not going to give somebody else the power over me when I choose to be happy. And that's my decision. So take that away with you. And in everything you do, no matter what other people are saying, no matter what's going on or what gossip or bad is happening in the world, choose to be happy.
My last question to you, and that was amazing, by the way. My last question, and only if you're allowed, only if you were allowed, and you are not going to get yourself in trouble. Being that I'm in the capital of Canada, I want to know what your favorite spot in Canada has been to visit.
I've been a couple of times. One was on one of the army bases many, many, many years ago, and the other one I would say has to be Niagara Falls. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls was beautiful.
Yes, I must agree with you. I must agree with you, Mr. Gavin Stone. Thank you very much for giving us your time today. I know it's a little late for you where you are.
No
But
problem.
it's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure. It's been amazing to hear your stories and get to know you a little bit. And I definitely want to have you back. So, mi gente, don't forget, check him out, follow him, read his books, buy his books. And if you're like my little sister, make sure it's on your ebook because you know what? There are stories in there, there are things in there that the only way you're going to get to know and understand how amazing this man is through reading these books. Gavin, thank you once again.
Thank you for having me. It's been absolutely wonderful.